I know you addressed this on the Locked On Browns podcast. How long of a leash do you think Joe Flacco has to start the season, and when do you think you might be seeing Shador Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, fill in the blank rookie quarterback?
Yeah, I sort of mapped out those first 6 games as the stretch that I believe Flacco kind of gets here. And I guess that could change if things go really poorly in the first four of those games and the Browns are 0-4. We know what's been reported on how this team feels about Kenny Pickett and their belief in him and why they brought him in here in the first place. Certainly, you could see them maybe pivoting a little bit sooner, assuming that Pickett is okay at that point, which I believe he will be. But I've kind of mapped out those first 6 games as kind of the Joe Flacco portion of the schedule. And depending on how he comes out of those first 6 games, is what determines whether or not he stays the starter beyond that, or if they decide, okay, it's time to pivot. I also think the math could change on that a little bit if they don't have Kenny Pickett. Like I'm sort of going into this predicting and feeling like they're going to have four quarterbacks. And so that first 6 games, if things aren't going great, or even if it's less than that, having Kenny Pickett there, it's an easy veteran to pivot to be like, all right, this is our chance to maybe try to save the season, if you will. Is kind of how I'm viewing it. And then once you pivot to the rookies, I think it then becomes about it's less about like trying to save the season or salvage what you can of the season, and it becomes more about like, all right, we just want to evaluate these quarterbacks. And so you need to figure out when you pull the plug on the idea of trying to win, essentially. I don't know exactly when that's going to be. It might be after those first 6 games if things go really, really poorly for this team. Not that I think they necessarily will. I think they can navigate that decently and maybe come out of it 2-4 potentially. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think you're probably looking at seeing the rookies a little bit later. I think the earliest you see any of the rookies is probably that Dolphins game. Once you get through that early portion, that's pretty difficult. I think, even something like the Raiders game in mid-November or late November feels like another spot where you could start to see them pivot to the rookies again. And I think it all kind of depends on how many quarterbacks you keep and for how long you keep these quarterbacks. Because I'm assuming that next week they keep all four. And I'm assuming they start the regular season with all four on the roster. But, sometimes teams get injuries and they'll maybe pick up the phone and give the Browns a call and try to trade for one of these guys. And then we'll see what kind of happens from there. But I would probably bank on later in the season seeing these rookie quarterbacks.